Ba, 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 ba-da! Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for the donation, Rare Candy Guy. I appreciate it. Oh no, I can hear myself. 1 second. I don't want to hear me. You guys want to hear me, but I don't want to hear me. It's me. I was in the box. Could you guess? Hello and welcome. Spidey Rosmith live in the Forbidden Library, and today we'll be reading more Frankenstein. Again, thank you so much for the donation, Rare Candy Guy. I'm very happy you enjoyed my streams. Thank you. And hello to everyone else. Hello Jabba Hop, hello Boris, hello Luke, hello Void, hello Jake, hello Mr. Max, hello Lucas, hello Noko-chan, hello normal-sized Phantom. And I am good, Luke. I'm good. A little tired. It's been busy. Working retail at Christmas is an experience I have not had. And now I am experiencing it. And gosh, is it quite crazy. But we got through the day. And then I had dinner. And now I have fuel again to read a book. But first, we shall summarize. And how was it crazy? It's bonkers. People, because I work in a shop where we don't just sell things, we buy things off people. So like it's a trade-in shop kind of thing. We get like a lot of people trying to like get a little bit of cash for Christmas as well, not just like buying cheap things for Christmas. It's crazy. It's crazy. Lots and lots of things. But today we're here to read a book, and the book we're reading is Frankenstein, like as we have been attempting to read for a while. And it's been going on so much longer than I expected! But it's fine. It's been a good book, and I don't regret reading this at all, because it's been really cool. Let's give a little summary on how we've been doing. So Mr. Victor Frankenstein has been fished up by some lads going to one of the poles. I can't remember whether they're going to Antarctica or the other one. But they're going to one of the poles. And then he is telling his story. At Christmas, huh? Hey, Bryony, what's Christmas Day in the UK? From 8th to 20th? It's still 25th here. Still very much the same day here. We do not have any kind of special Christmas Day. What's the day after Boxing Day called for people? Do you guys have Boxing Day? Or is it called something else? And he's telling his story about how he got into science and then went to college, and then he was laughed at for his weird science, but then there was that one teacher who liked him and told him some actual science, and then he got really, really excited at just Boxing Day. Okay, I wasn't sure because I don't really see it's mentioned on the cover when it comes to the American shows. They don't tend to talk about Boxing Day so much, so I was just kind of curious if it was actually the words that the Americans use too. But anyway, and then he made a monster. Not a monster, he made a creature. He made a sentient creature and was just like, that was a good idea. No, it's hideous. A creature made from parts of corpses is hideous. How was I ever to expect this? Oh my gosh. And he ran away from it, abandoned it the moment of its birth. I always thought Boxing Day was like punchboxing, not actual. I used to think that when I was younger too. I was like, is it the day the boxing is on or something? My co-workers told me it was different for every country. I've never heard of Boxing Day like Mike Tyson. No actual boxing on Boxing Day. I mean, there's just a lot of boxes around left from Christmas. I believe that's why it's called Boxing Day. It's just the day after Christmas. We also have Boxing Day sales. I mean, in America sometimes, yes. Then he ran into his friend out of school, and his friend nursed him back to health from his self-imposed PTSD. And then he went home, only to find his brother had been murdered, and his family friend went down for the murder. But he knew it was his creation truly who did it. And when he was out soul-searching, his creation came up to him and told him that yes, he did do it. and gave him sort of the lowdown of what he'd been up to the whole time, and how that he learned language, he learned how people work, he learned about the world, but he was also rejected by it, completely and utterly rejected by anyone and anything that could visually see him, basically, because he is absolutely butt ugly. And probably a bit stinky too. I can't imagine a pile of corpses like that smelling very nice either. So he implored his creator to make him a companion to live with, and he will retire from the neighbourhood of man should he get a companion. Victor reluctantly agreed, and then he went off to England to go discuss some things with some science people. There's not really a good reason for him to run away to England, it just is. And he starts his work on this second. However, he has some second thoughts as he's doing it. And partway through, as the monster is coming to inspect his partner's creation, Victor destroys it. Victor does not want to bring a second version of him into the world. However, that means the monster now has nothing holding him back. The threats against Victor and his family will now be carried through. That is to say, the first victim was easily found. Victor soon found his best friend, who had travelled with him, dead. He broke down, and he also ended up framed for the murder himself. He was put in jail, but seen to by a nurse and eventually nursed back to health. They will eventually have the charges dropped, but his father came over from Geneva to make sure he was okay. I believe they're in Ireland right now. Whether that's north or south, we don't know. But I assume if they're saying Ireland rather than the UK, then probably actual Ireland, not Northern Ireland. I know! Clerval's dead! And it's just very sad because, like, he was such a good boy. He was such a good boy. He was the best character. And that is about where we ended off. So, he got his charges dropped. And his father came to basically take him home. And then he's going to get married to his adoptive cousin because, you know, that's how things work. However, the monster threatened to pretty much see him on his wedding day. So we'll see how that goes. He was a good boy. Clerval deserved nothing but the best. Yeah. Rip to Clerval. Chapter 22. The voyage came to an end. We landed and proceeded to Paris. I soon found that I had overtaxed my strength, and that I must repose before I could continue my journey. My father's care and attentions were indefatigable, but he did not know the origin of my sufferings, and sought erroneous methods to remedy the incurable ill. You heard birds just now? I don't know what you did. Hi, B12! Welcome! Monster catches bouquet on wedding day. Now you need to make me a wife. God chose me to be married next. He wished me to seek amusement in society. I abhorred the face of man. Oh, not abhorred. They were my brethren, my fellow beings, and I felt attracted even to the most repulsive among them, as to creatures of any angelic nature and celestial mechanism. But I felt I had no right to share their intercourse. I had unchained an enemy amongst them, whose joy it was to shed their blood and revel in their groans. How would they each and all abhor me, and hunt me from the world? Did they know my unhallowed acts, and the crimes which had their source in me? Well, too bad for me, my brain has somehow become able to recreate the response to spoiled milk, even when there's no spoiled milk. Can you imagine the spell? Oof, that's terrible. Terrible. My father yielded at length to my desire to avoid society, and strove by various arguments to banish my despair. Sometimes he thought that I felt deeply the degradation of being obliged to answer a charge of murder, and he endeavoured to prove me to fertility of pride. "Alas, my father," said I, "how little do you know of me! Human beings, their feelings and passions, would indeed be degraded if such a wretch as I felt pride. Justine, poor unhappy Justine, was as innocent as I, and she suffered the same charge. She died for it, and I am the cause of this. I murdered her. William, Justine, and Henry, they all died by my hands." My father had often, during my imprisonments, heard me make the same assertion. When I thus accused myself, he sometimes seemed to desire an explanation, and at others he appeared to consider it as the offspring of delirium, and that during my illness some idea of this kind had presented itself to my imagination, the remembrance of which I preserved in my convalescence. I avoided explanation and maintained a continual silence concerning the wretch I created. I had persuaded that I should be supposed mad, and this in itself would for ever have chained my tongue. But, besides, I could not bring myself to disclose a secret which would fulfil my hearer with consideration and make fear and unnatural horror the inmates of his breast. I checked, therefore, my impatient thirst for sympathy, and was silent when I could have given to the world, have confided the fatal secret. Yet still the words, like those I have recorded, would burst uncontrollably from me. I could offer no explanation of them, but their truth in part relied on the burden of my mysterious woe. I wonder what you have in store for us after 1K subs, Brainy. I have some things. I have some little cool merch things that hopefully people will enjoy. Obviously, I have my Sonic cringe fanfic. But honestly, I'm kind of stumped on what to do for an actual celebration sub thing. I don't want to do Jackbox again. I'm thinking about Jump Scare Mansion again. Because with 1,000 subs, I'd have to get further. 5? I know, it's only 5 subs to go. It's bonkers. And I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? If anyone has any suggestions on what they would want to... You want to hear about the merch, Void? Well, you have to get to 1K subs before you hear about the merch. I know. Closer and closer it creeps up. So, yeah, I wanted to do a karaoke originally as well, but obviously I've had the kind of monetization issues, so I couldn't do that. So my plan kind of got ruined, so I had to think of a new plan. So it might be Jump Scare Mansion. Sonic cringe fanfic. Lethal Company. I was thinking about some Lethal Company. Karaoke, but with no copyright strikes. Maybe we could do a cappella if we wanted that, but even that's risky, I think. Lethal Company was suggested, to be honest. My boyfriend suggested it, actually. I didn't really want to play it on my own, so I don't know if some of my assistants would be happy to jump in on that if they have it. Maybe I could put a little shout out on the Discord and be like, hey, who wants to play Lethal Company for 1,000? Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Remind me. If I haven't mentioned it on Discord, remind me. Because I'm smart and might forget. Yet still, words like those I've recorded uncontrollably. I could offer no explanation to them, but their truth in part relieved the burden of my mysterious woe. Classical music karaoke, no copyright there. What, doing opera? There aren't many classical musics with lyrics. I want to do Jackbox, then Void manages to make a lewd joke in a game with a lewd setting turn off. It's not that I don't want to do Jackbox for the lewd, for avoiding lewd. It's more it's a giant pain in the arse. You actually just got Lethal Company? Well, there's one of my teammates there, Luke. If I can get it for a time that you're free, I would happily have you on my little scavenger team thing. That would be fun. How much is Lethal Company? Just make noise. ASMR briny noises, which aren't ASMR at all. That would be silly. Very silly. But I like the idea. Okay, where were we? Upon this occasion, my father said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air." What briny noises would it be like? I don't know. Feck is probably a good briny noise, and eep is probably a good briny noise, and it's probably a good briny noise. Probably stuff like that. Is Lethal Company mobile or Steam exclusive? Because you haven't got Steam to work for you. I have no idea. I'm gonna actually double check the Steam page at the moment. How much is... Nope, that's my Stream Deck. I want Steam. I can imagine a compilation of just briny noises. Oh, lordy do. That would be a thing, wouldn't it? Lethal Company. Oh, it's only $8.50. That's not too bad. Let's at least stick that on the wish list so I don't forget. And the Steam Christmas sale should be starting soon, and I might even get money off if that happens. That would be lovely. Actually, no, I don't need money off. Rare Candy Guy just bought it for me. Rare Candy Guy just gave me money. That can go towards Lethal Company for 1,000 subs. Sounds good. Okay. I mean, someone probably could gather all of your noises, screams and giggles for the one. Yeah, probably. It would be a lot of work, though, because I find it very hard to do it for, like, one stream to, like, gather all my stupid noises. They're very hard to find sometimes. Upon this occasion, my father said, with an expression of unbounded wonder, "My dearest Victor, what infatuation is this? My dear son, I entreat you never to make such an assertion again." Rare Candy Guy bought Lethal Company and a McDonald's. I could definitely get a Mackey's in with that as well, definitely. 25 quid, so $8.50, that would leave... Yeah, I could get a couple of Mackies with that, maybe. if they're small, I could get so many chicken nuggets. You are of help, Rare Candy Guy. I appreciate it. We can play Lethal Company. I've only seen a little bit of that game. It does look funny. "I am not mad," I cried energetically. "The sun and the heavens, who have viewed my operations, can bear witness to my truth. I am the assassin of those most innocent victims. They died by my machinations. 1,000 times I have shed my own blood, drop by drop, to have saved their lives, but I could not. My father... Indeed, I could not sacrifice the whole human race. Nuggie apocalypse! Oh, that would be tasty. Unless it's a nuggie apocalypse because the nuggies are turning you into zombies. That would suck. No nuggies for anyone. Unless you want to be a zombie. But who says you aren't already a zombie? Da da da! The conclusion of this speech convinced my father that my ideas were deranged, and he instantly changed the subject of our conversation, and endeavoured to alter the course of my thoughts. He wished as much as possible to obliterate the memory of the scenes that had taken place in Ireland, and never alluded to them or suffered me to speak of my misfortunes. I gave another streamer $50 today when they were gonna get copyrighted over Millie songs anyway, so I'm a good bean now. Yeah! At the time I passed away, I became more calm. Misery had her dwelling in my heart, but I no longer talked in the same incoherent manner of my own crimes. Sufficient for me was my consciousness of them. By the utmost self-violence I curbed the impetuous voice of wretchedness, which sometimes desired to declare itself the whole world, and my manner were calm and more composed than they had been since my journey to the sea of ice. A few days before we left Paris, on our way to Switzerland, I received the following letter from Elizabeth. My dear friend, it gave me the greatest pleasure to receive a letter from my uncle dated at Paris. You are no longer at a formidable distance, and I may hope to see you in less than a fortnight. My poor cousin, how much you must have suffered! I expect to see you looking even more ill than when you quitted Geneva. This winter has been passed most miserably. Tortured as I have been by anxious suspense, yet I hope to see peace in your countenance, and to find that your heart is not totally void of comfort and tranquillity. Yay! Look, go play Lethal Company with me. Wonderful. We will sort out a time, and it'll be great. And we'll get some other assistants in it if they are free. By the way, did the creature ever get a name? The creature still does not have a name. Nope, it is just the wretched thing, or things like that. Brand new noise +1. Yet I fear that the same feelings now exist that made you miserable a year ago, even perhaps augmented by time. I would not disturb you at this period when so many misfortunes weigh upon you, but a conversation that I had with my uncle previous to his departures renders some explanation necessary before we meet. Explanation, you may possibly say. What can Elizabeth have to explain? If you really say this, my questions are answered, and all my doubts satisfied, but you are distant from me, and it is possible that you may dread and yet be pleased with this explanation. And in a probability of this being the case, I dare not any longer postpone writing. During your absence, I have often wished to express to you, but I have never had the courage to begin. You well know, Victor, that our union had been the favourite plan of your parents ever since our infancy. We were told this when we were young, and taught to look forward to it as an event that would certainly take place. We were affectionate playfellows during childhood, and I believe dear and valued friends to one another as we grew older. But as brother and sister often entertain a lively affection towards each other without desiring a more intimate union, may not such also be our case? Tell me, dearest Victor, answer me. I conjure you by our mutual happiness with simple truth. Do you not love another? Aww, bless her. She thinks it. I don't think this is friend zoning. I think that Elizabeth thinks he's being very distant because he's fallen for someone else. You have travelled. You have spent several years of your life in Ingolstadt, and I confess to you, my friend, that when I saw you last autumn so unhappy, flying to solitude from the society of every creature, I could not help supposing that you might regret our connection, and believe yourself bound in honour to fulfil the wishes of your parents, although they opposed themselves to your inclinations. But this is false reasoning. I confess to you, my friend, that I love you, and in and that in my airy dreams of fortuity. You have been my constant friend and companion. But it is your happiness I desire, as well as my own, when I declare to you that our marriage would render me internally miserable, unless it were a dictate of your own free choice. Oh, she's so nice! So let's have an English translation for this, for those who might struggle with the language bit. She's basically saying, I love you a lot, but if we got married and you had fallen for someone else, we'd both be miserable, and I want you to be happy. Why is she so nice? Good lord. And she's probably going to get murdered later. Even now I weep to think that, borne down as you are by the cruelest misfortunes, you may stifle by the word honour. I all hope that love and happiness which would alone restore you to yourself. I, who have dropped something and need to pick it up. 1 second, there we go. No, she doesn't know what Victor did at all. I, who have so disinterested an affection for you, may increase your miseries tenfold by being an obstacle to your wishes. Ah, Victor, be assured that your cousin and playmate has too sincere a love for you not to be made miserable by this superstition. Be happy, my friend, and if you obey me in this one request, remain satisfied that nothing on earth will have the power to interrupt my tranquillity. Do not let this letter disturb you. Do not answer tomorrow, or the next day, or even until you come. If it will give you pain, my uncle will send me news of your health, and if I see but one smile on your lips when we meet, occasioned by this or any other exertion of mine, I shall need no other happiness. Ah! Why is this so soft? Elizabeth! Why are you so soft? You are the sweetest. I'm sorry. I got so into what I was reading. Let me just catch up with some of the chat I missed there. Victor's 100% time to double down and not say anything. Correct. Hey, Brownie, if I gave you £2,000 worth of USD, could you buy 4 double quarter pounders with every add-on? And extra everything, and try eat one of those for the funsies. Why would I buy 4, but you only want me to eat 1? Also, I really don't need $2,000 to buy 4 double pounded burgers. $2,000 is way too much for that. Frankenstein's monster is never given a name throughout the whole book, most likely done to fully remove any humanity the reader could possibly give it. Even the respect of one's name. Yes. Well, that's because Daddy abandoned them and never gave them a name, and they never thought of giving themselves a name. I wonder if Lethal Company will give me views. I should hope so. It's one of the most popular games on the internet right now. There we go. Oh, so she's more afraid of him or Torium. I don't see the point of that since he made him likable. Again, it is to like separate him from humanity, to remind us that he is not human, I think. Not only just to kind of separate him from the human characters. You're translating Old English, you're translating Old Romans. I mean, I'm just trying to... I know like a couple of people have mentioned that sometimes the language confuses them, so I like to layman's term it a little bit sometimes for people. Brady knows +1. Nice, you can do whatever you want. He is still a giant newborn babe. Oh, he's not quite new. I think he's about... Well, he's kind of newborn. I think he's probably about 3-4 years old at this point in the book. Just because the travelling takes so long in this book. She's skipped over a lot of it, but... He's probably about 3 or 4 now. I think it's a fan theory the monster's name is Adam. That would make sense. I could see Victor being that poetic as to call his first creature Adam. This letter revived in my memory what I had before forgotten, the threat of the fiend. I will be with you on your wedding night. Time surely passes quickly in this book. Giant toddler. Yes, he's a giant toddler now. Correct. No wonder he's so angry and murdering people. Giant toddler with great strength. Such was my sentence. And on that night would the demon employ every art to destroy me and tear me from the glimpse of happiness which promised to partly console my sufferings? On that night he had determined to consummate his crimes by my death. Well, be it so. A deadly struggle would then assuredly take place, in which if he were victorious, I should be at peace, and his power over me be at an end. If he were vanquished, I should be a free man. Alas, what freedom! Such as the peasant enjoys when his family have been massacred before his eyes, his cottage burned and his lands laid to waste, and he is turned adrift, homeless, penniless, and alone, but free. Do you think there's any chance the letter's words are fluffed, since they are recounts of his memory being told to the guy in the boat? There is an entirely good chance of that. There's a good chance that some of this is a little bit of an unreliable narrator issue. You make a good point there, Mr. B12. Or Miss B12. Or they B12. Not trying to diminish the cuteness of Elizabeth, but the idea of knowing Victor's character. In a way, that kind of makes it more sweet, though, because that's, like, his image of Elizabeth. That's what he imagines her saying. He imagines her as this sweet little angel who just is perfect, and that's why we're seeing her as perfect, I guess. That's just the foggy cloud of love that he has, I suppose, if that's the case. Which is, actually, like I said, kind of sweet in itself, really. Yeah, he loves her. Such would be my liberty, except that in my Elizabeth I possessed a treasure. Alas, balanced by those horrors of remorse and guilt which would pursue me until death. She is perfect. Yeah, as far as we know, she's perfect. We'll never see a flaw from her because we're looking through Victor's eyes. And in Victor's eyes, she is perfect. Given how, like, he described her at the start as well, actually, when you think about that and how he described her as this most perfect, angelic, angel child. It makes a lot of sense, actually, when you say it like that. It's like, okay, this is rose-colored glasses. He is so fucking in love. Sweet and beloved Elizabeth. I read and reread her letter, and some softened feeling stole my heart and dared to whisper paradisiacal dreams of love and joy. But the apple was already eaten, and the angel's arm bared to drive me from all hope. Hey, Bryony, please don't read Dracula in October. I really don't know why a monster of the night can have so many weaknesses and still be scary. Because something can have so many weaknesses, but if it could rip your throat out before you can use any of those weaknesses, then that's how it can be scary. Same for Frankenstein. He's a good boy, but he can tear you into two. Yet I would die to make her happy. If the monster executed his threat, death was inevitable. Yet again I considered whether my marriage would hasten my fate. My destruction might indeed arrive a few months sooner, but if my torturer should suspect that I postponed it, influenced by his menace, he would surely find another and perhaps more dreadful means of revenge. He had vowed to be with me on my wedding night. Yet he did not consider that threat as binding him to peace in the meantime, for as if to show me that he was not yet sated with blood, he had murdered Clerval immediately after the enunciation of his threat. I resolved, therefore, that if my immediate union with my cousin would conduce either hers, or my father's happiness, my adversary's designs against my life should not retard it a single hour. Frankie probably can squash into triangles and squares like Tamari. Yes, I have been so distant, consistently different. In this state of mind, I wrote to Elizabeth. My letter was calm and affectionate. I fear, my beloved girl, I said, little happiness remains for us on earth. Yet all that I may one day enjoy is centred in you. Chase away your idle fears. To you alone I'll consecrate my life and my endeavours for contentment. I have one secret, Elizabeth, a dreadful one. When revealed to you, it will chill your frame with horror, and then, far from being surprised at my misery, you will only wonder that I survive what I have encountered. I will confide this tale of misery and terror to you the day after our marriage shall take place. For, my sweet cousin, there must be perfect confidence between us. But until then, I conjure you, do not mention or allude to it. This I most earnestly entreat, and I know you will comply. Have a nice chill luck, Luke. Bryony, he'll do the job before you can use one of his weaknesses, Void. Hey, I'll just stay in my house and throw rocks at him. I'll have to invite him in. Yeah, but that's the thing. He wouldn't be scary to you if you stayed in your house. But with Dracula, they get stuck in his house. I believe that's the point of the thing. He gets stuck in his manor. But yeah, and also, like, books don't have to be scary on Halloween. I mean, Frankenstein is actually a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. Frankenstein himself is a little bit scary. He is powerful and strong and terrifying. And he is going to wreck shit. In about a week after the arrival of Elizabeth's letter, we returned to Geneva. The sweet girl welcomed me with warm affection, yet tears were in her eyes as she beheld my emancipated frame and feverish cheeks, and funny and ripped and great voice actor. Wait, wrong stream. Perfect. I saw a change in her also. She was thinner and had lost much of that heavenly visage that had before charmed me, but her gentleness and soft looks of compassion made her a more fit companion for one blasted and miserable as I was. I meant the monster. You know what I mean. Don't pick on me. The tranquility which I now enjoyed did not endure. Memory brought madness with it, and when I thought of what had passed, a real insanity possessed me. Sometimes I was furious and burned with rage, sometimes low and despondent. I neither spoke nor looked at anyone, but sat motionless, bewildered by the multitude of miseries that overcame me. Elizabeth alone had the power to draw me from these fits. Her gentle voice would soothe me when transported by passion, and inspire me with human feelings when sunk into torpor. She wept with me and for me. When reason returned, she would remonstrate and endeavour to inspire me with resignation. It is well for the unfortunate to be resigned, but for the guilty there is no peace. The agonies of remorse poison the luxury there is otherwise sometimes found in indulging excesses of grief. Every time you read a page, one push-up. That would probably get you ripped pretty fast. Soon after my arrival, my father spoke of my immediate marriage with Elizabeth. I remained silent. Have you, then, some other attachment? None on earth. I love Elizabeth and look forward to our union with delight. Let the day therefore be fixed, and on it I will consecrate myself, in life or death, to the happiness of my cousin. My dear Victor, do not speak thus. Heavy misfortunes have befallen us, and let us only cling closer to what remains and transfer our love for those whom we have lost to those who yet live. Our circle will be small, but bound by close ties of affection and mutual misfortune. And when time shall have softened your despair, new and dear objects of care will be born to replace those whom we have been so cruelly deprived. Such were the lessons of my father, but to me the remembrance of the threat returned. Nor can you wonder that, omnipotent as the fiend had yet been in his deeds of blood, I should almost regard him as invincible, and that when he had pronounced the words, "I shall be with you on your wedding night," I should have regarded the threatened fate as unavoidable. But death was no evil to me, if the loss of Elizabeth were balanced with it, and I, therefore, with a content and even cheerful countenance, agreed with my father, that if my cousin would consent, the ceremony should take place in 10 days, and thus put, as I imagined, to seal my fate. Are you playing Pokemon DLC 2, Brenny? It's out already. I know it's out already. I will have it scheduled for next week. I know it came out on Thursday, but I really wanted to put my horsey together, so I did that instead. No, was it Thursday? Friday? Friday. But I will be playing it, don't you worry. I have it all installed and ready to go, but I just really wanted to use my hand cam on Friday. The period fixed for our marriage. No, wait. Great God! If for one instant I had thought what might be the hellish intention of my fiendish adversary, I would rather have banished myself forever from my native country, and wandered a friendless outcast over the earth, than have consented to this miserable marriage. But, as if possessed of magic powers, the monster had blinded me to his real intentions, and when I thought that I had prepared only my own death, I hastened that of a far dearer victim. Yep, and Patreon next week too. Yes. No, you'll get both. You'll get both, Void. You'll have Pokemon and Patreon. I have them both scheduled up. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Did not blind you, Victor. You're just so self-absorbed to think of anyone but yourself. Oh, so true. So true. As the period fixed for our marriage drew nearer, whether from cowardice or a prophetic feeling, I felt my heart sink within me. But I concealed my feelings by an appearance of hilarity, and brought smiles and joy to the countenance of my father. But I hardly deceived the ever watchful and nice eye of Elizabeth. She looked forward to our union with placid contentment, not unmingled with a little fear, which past misfortunes had impressed that what now appeared certain and tangible happiness might soon dissipate into an airy dream and leave no trace but deep, everlasting regret. Preparations were made for the event, congratulatory visits were received, and all wore a smiling appearance. I shut up, as well as I could in my own heart, the anxiety that preyed there, and entered with seeming earnestness into the plans of my father, although they might only serve as decorations of my tragedy. Though through my father's excitations, a part of the inheritance of Elizabeth had been restored by the Austrian government. A small possession on the shores of Como belonged to her. It was agreed that immediately after our union we should proceed to Villa Lavenza and spend our first days of happiness beside the beautiful lake near which it stood. Good evening, JPC, welcome. I really thought you were going to skip Patreon a third week in a row. I would have whined, but too bad it's Thursday stream. Not Christmas when I'm actually off. It's been a busy month. And like I said, I not long started the job this month, so that's why Patreon's been a bit questionable time-wise, but I've found a week to put it in. Luckily, this week I'm not working quite as much, so I can get a few more streams in next week. Yeah, exactly. So I'm probably not going to be streaming Christmas, to be honest. Unfortunately, I will be working around Christmas, except for Christmas Day, so I'm going to just kind of die that week a little bit. That paragraph hits different on a reread. Ooh, I look forward to that. In the meantime, I took every precaution to defend my person in case the fiend should openly attack me. Are you still doing that part-time job in January? I hope so. It was a 12-week contract, but they're kind of low-staffed, so I'm hoping that I can keep it. And it should be a bit quieter after Christmas, because we've got long Christmas hours for the shop to be open now, so take it easy on the streaming then. Can't have you fainting. I'll be fine. I'm trying to make sure, I'm only streaming if I'm not working that day, with the exception of Sundays today. And sometimes Tuesdays. Maybe. No, I'm fine. I will, if I feel burnt out, I will stop. Don't you worry. I'll look after myself. I have a wonderful, caring boyfriend. If he notices that I'm overdoing it, he will say something, and I will do stuff. Don't worry. I'll be fine. What was I up to? So far to pass the contaminant. In the meantime, I took every precaution to defend myself, in case the fiend should openly attack me. I carried pistols and a dagger constantly about me, and was ever on the watch to prevent artifice. Sorry, I'm still new, but what's your profession and trade, if that's public knowledge? Retail. It's like a swap shop for technology and stuff like that. Is anyone else having 2 to 5 second buffer on their end? You can just smack your throat. I have no idea. Is it legal for him to always carry weapons? I don't know. I have no idea what it would have been legal to have in Geneva back in those days. Indeed, as the period approached, the threat appeared more as a delusion, not to be regarded as worthy to disturb my peace, while the happiness I hoped for in my marriage wore greater appearance of certainty as the day fixed for its solemnization drew nearer, and I heard it continually spoken of as an occurrence which no accident could possibly prevent. Yeah, I am also an author, just not one that makes enough money to be able to not do a retail job. I'm a VTuber too, that's a job. It'd be funny if he went to the wedding with a pistol, knife in a pocket. Honestly, I wasn't surprised if he did. Elizabeth seemed happy. My tranquil demeanour contributed greatly to her calm mind. But on the day that was to fulfil my wishes and my destiny, she was melancholy, and presentiment of evil pervaded her, and perhaps also she thought of the dreadful secret which I had promised to reveal to her on the following day. My father, in the meantime, was overjoyed, and in the bustle of preparation only recognized in the melancholy of his niece the difference of a bride. After the ceremony was performed, a large party assembled at my father's, but it was agreed that Elizabeth and I should commence our journey by water, sleeping that night at Evian, and continuing our voyage the following day. The day was fair, the wind favourable. All smiled on our nuptial embarkation. Hey, Brian, your relationship advice. If you think your BF has fallen in love with someone, he hasn't. He's just worried that a giant monster is following him and managing to kill everyone he loves. I don't know. I'd like to think he just wouldn't tell me. No, I don't know. I don't know if I would. I want to know, honestly. Part of me is like, I'd want to know so I could help. Like, we could try to fend off the monster, but at the same time, I'm weak as shit. I ain't gonna help. What am I gonna help with? Other than maybe setting a trap so that we could call police or something. Maybe we could lure it somewhere where, like, I don't know, someone else could deal with it. I could call the police, but I really don't know what the police would do either. Also, they wouldn't believe us. Monitor the cameras. I could monitor cameras, and we could set up some security cameras and stuff. So yeah, maybe he should tell me so that we could, like, put some money towards some security. Be the commander. Yes, I could. I couldn't be able to fight it, but, you know, we could make some plans. Just Home Alone the monster. That would be good. That would work. We could do that. I'm not sure what things we could set up at our house, but I'm sure we could do something. Those were the last moments of my life during which I enjoyed the feeling of happiness. This was the last moments of his life where he enjoyed the feelings of happiness. We have 18% of this book left for his misery. Let's go. We passed rapidly along. The sun was hot, but we were sheltered from its rays by the kind canopy while we enjoyed the beauty of the scene. Sometimes on one side of the lake, where we saw Mont Salve, the pleasant banks of apologies to anyone who knows how to pronounce that, at a distance surmounting all the beautiful Mont Blanc, and the assemblage of snowy mountains that in vain endeavoured to emulate her. Sometimes coasting the opposite banks, we saw the mighty Jura opposing its dark side to the ambition that would quit its native country, and an almost insurmountable barrier to the invader who should wish to enslave it. Let's be real, he's been miserable for 80% of the book, that's true. He's been miserable for 80% of it, and I'd say at least 30 to 40 he's been outright insane. Monta GB. Yeah, exactly. Just tell them there's an animal thing trying to kill everyone. Call animal control. And they'll just trank it and drag the monster. And just tell them it's a big animal. And they'll have no choice to believe it. That's true. They'll want to believe that too. I feel like that's the kind of lie you tell people. And then they're like, oh, okay. I don't want to believe this either. So yeah, totally. It's just an animal. Let's agree with that. It's an animal. I took the hand of Elizabeth. You are sorrowful, my love. Ah, if you knew what I have suffered, and what I may yet endure, you would endeavour to let me taste the quiet and freedom from despair that this one day at least permits me to enjoy. Be happy, my dear Victor, replied Elizabeth. There is, I hope, nothing to distress you, and be assured that if a lively joy is not painted on my face, my heart is contented. Something whispers to me, not to depend too much on the prospect that is opened before us, but I will listen to such a sinister voice. But I will not listen to such a sinister voice. Observe how fast we are moving along, and how the clouds, which sometimes obscure and sometimes rise above the dome of Mont Blanc, render the scene of beauty still more interesting. Look at all the insurmountable fish that are swimming in the clear waters, where we can distinguish every pebble that lies at the bottom. What a divine day! How happy and serene all nature appears! Did they have animal control back then? They would have had hunters, definitely. Hunters with guns. Sometimes I should write a spin-off where Victor does tell some hunters and we have a live action. To Frankenstein, the action movie where he did tell people and they're just like straight up hunting him down. Oh, it would be like Predator. It's basically the Predator movie. Except it's Frankenstein with less technology. Thus Elizabeth endeavoured to divert her thoughts and mine from all reflection and melancholy subjects, but her temper was fluctuating. Joy for a few instances shone in her eyes, but it continually gave place to distraction and revive. The sun sank lower in the heavens. We passed the river Trance and observed its path through the chasms of the higher and the glens of the lower hills. The Alps here come closer to the lake, and we approached the amphitheatre of mountains which formed its eastern boundary. The spire of Avien shone under the woods that surrounded it, and the range of mountains above mountains by which it overhung. The wind, which had hitherto carried us along with amazing quickness, sank at sunset to a light breeze. The soft air just ruffled the water, and caused a pleasant motion among the trees as we approached the shore, from which it wafted the most delightful scent of flowers and hay. The sun began to sink beneath the horizon as we landed, and as I touched the shore, I felt those cares and fears revive, which soon were to clasp me and cling to me forever. Predator, but Frankenstein. Yeah, because he's really strong and faster than the average human. So that to me says that he's basically a predator with less technology. I know Frankenstein Unbound has a time-traveling scientist assisting Victor. Ooh, that's cool. That's what the whole hour of briny noises could be like. Just me going. It sounds like Animal Crossing. Or Simlish, one or the other. Oh, silly. No one understands briny language, not even briny. A new movie, Frankenstein versus the Predator. Yes! Predator decides to go after Elizabeth, so Frankenstein creates an army of demons to fight back. Sounds great. Tom Nook will hire me. As long as he pays me. I would like to be paid by Tom Nook, because obviously he has a lot of muns, and I want a bit of that muns. Chapter 23. Truly the crossover we need, yes. It was 8 o'clock when we landed. We walked for a short time on the shore, enjoying the transitory light, and then retired to the inn, and contemplated the lovely scene of waters, woods, and mountains, obscured in darkness, yet still displaying their black outlines. Yes, we progress! Frankenstein may be 7 foot tall, but I hear Kratos is 8 foot tall. So which one would you rather be in the same room with, Brenny? Are you saying in the same room with, as in they're both angry with me for some reason? Because if that's the case, Frankenstein, definitely not Kratos. No. Admittedly, Kratos might kill me quicker, to be fair. So that would be better, potentially. If you want a bit of muns, I'll keep that in mind for my prep time. The wind, which had fallen in the south, now rose with great violence in the west. The moon had reached her summit in the heavens and was beginning to descend. The clouds swept across it swifter than the flight of the vulture, and dimmed her rays, while the lake reflected the scene of the busy heavens, rendered still busier by the restless waves that were beginning to rise. Suddenly a heavy storm of rain descended. Kratos is a pro, would be over in a snap. Exactly, like, they don't have to be angry, let's say just chilling out with them. Okay, so I'm specifically saying new Kratos, Dad of War Kratos. I don't think I would be that scared to be in a room with him, I'm not gonna lie. As long as I'm not, like, pissing him off for any particular reason. He's just grumpy. He's just a grumpy dad. So I would say Kratos more, whereas Frankenstein has a lot of issues, mainly abandonment issues, and I don't want to get into that, even if I don't know what my reaction to his appearance would be either. You can hide in your box from Kratos. That's he would just pick up the box and just, like, yeet me out of it. He's like, what the fuck are you doing in there? Stop hiding. God damn it. Murr. I think you can reason with Frankie if you don't show fear of seeing. I know, but I have a feeling Frank, I don't know if Frankie would be like, oh my god, someone who's being nice to me, oh my god, stay with me forever, and it could go really badly. But God of War 3 Kratos is just a hint. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a room with, like, young Kratos. Dad of War Kratos, yes. Young Kratos, no. I'll pick Frankenstein if it's young Kratos, no. Dad of War, yes. We'll just chill out. Yeah, and then the thing with Dad Kratos, even if he tires of me too quickly, Dad Kratos, he'll just leave. He won't murder me unless I do anything. Unless I decide to, threaten his son or something. So you need to help him, introduce him to the other world. He could just live in the library. There are weirder things in the library than Frankenstein. He'd be happy here. It was 8 o'clock when we landed. I already said that. And the rain descended. Yes, new page. That's what I'm up to. I had been calm during the day, but as soon as night obscured the shapes and objects, 1,000 fears arose in my mind. I was anxious and watchful, while my right hand grasped a pistol, which was hidden in my bosom. Every sound terrified me. But I resolved that I would sell my life dearly, and not shrink from the conflict until my own life, or that my adversary was extinguished. So you're needing to help introduce him. Just like Roland, yeah. What are you gonna do to What are you gonna do, baby Atreus? I doubt you can even do that. What? Yeah, baby Atreus is like just too strong. I couldn't do anything to him if I wanted to. But I feel like it would piss off Dad of War even to just threaten him, even if he... Actually, no, you know what? Dad of War would look at me if I threatened his child and just fucking laugh. Like, yeah, I trained him better than that. Nah. Elizabeth observed my agitation for some time in timid and fearful silence, but there was something in my glance which communicated terror to her, a trembling. She asked, "What agitates you, my dear Victor? What is it you fear?" "Oh, peace, peace, my love," I replied. "This night, and all will be safe. But this night is dreadful, very dreadful." I passed an hour in this state of mind when suddenly I reflected how fearful the combat which I momentarily expected would be to my wife. I earnestly entreated her to retire, resolving not to join her until I had obtained some knowledge as to the situation of my enemy. She left me. I continued some time walking up and down the passages of the house and inspecting every corner that might afford a retreat to my adversary. But I discovered no trace of him, and was beginning to conjecture that some fortunate chance had intervened to prevent the execution of his menaces, when suddenly I heard a shrill and dreadful scream. It came from the room into which Elizabeth had retired. As I heard it, the whole truth rushed into my mind. My arms dropped, and the motion of every muscle and fibre was suspended. I could feel the blood trickling in my veins and tingling in the extremities of my limbs. This state lasted but for an instant. The scream was repeated, and I rushed to the room. Great God! Why did I not expire? Why am I here to relate the destruction of the best hope and the purest creature on earth? She was there, lifeless and inanimate, thrown across the bed, her head hanging down and her pale and distorted features half covered by her hair. Everywhere I turn, I see the same figure, her bloodless arms and relaxed form flung by the murderer on its bridal bier. Could I behold this and live? Alas, life is obstinate and clings closest where it is most hated. For a moment only did I lose recollection. I fell senseless to the ground. When I recovered, I found myself surrounded by the people of the inn. Their countenances expressed a breathless terror, but the horror of others appeared only as a mockery, a shadow of the feelings that oppressed me. I escaped from the room where lay the body of Elizabeth. My love, my wife, so lately living, so dear, so worthy. She had been moved from the posture in which I had first beheld her. Now as she lay, her head upon her arm, and a handkerchief thrown across her face and neck, I might have supposed her asleep. I rushed towards her and embraced her with ardour, but the deadly languor and coldness of the limbs told me that what I now held in my arms had ceased to be Elizabeth, whom I had loved and cherished. It seems that she was murdered. The murderous mark of the fiend's grasp was on her neck, and the breath had ceased to issue from her lips. While I was hung over her in the agony of despair, I happened to look up. The windows of the room had before been darkened, and I felt a kind of panic on seeing the pale yellow light of the moon illuminate the chamber. The shutters had been thrown back, and with a sensation of horror not to be described, I saw at the open window a figure most hideous and abhorred, a grin on the face of the monster. He seemed to jeer, as with his fiendish finger pointed towards the corpse of my wife. I rushed towards the window, and drawing a pistol from my bosom, fired, but he eluded me, leapt from his station, and running with the swiftness of lightning, plunging into the lake. The report of the pistol brought a crowd into the room. I pointed to the spot where he had disappeared, and we followed the track with the boats. Nets were cast, but in vain. So he said he would be with him on his wedding night, and that was indeed his wedding night. So he didn't say he'd be at the wedding, he said wedding night. I can picture this in my head, and it's a really well seen. It is good, isn't it? After passing several hours, we returned hopeless, most of my companions believing it to have been a form conjured up by my fancy. After having landed, they proceeded to search the country, parties going in different directions among the woods and vines. What if the monster just grabbed the gun and tanked several shots just to prove a point? That would mean he'd have to get close enough to take the gun, and he never got that close. I attempted to accompany them, and proceed a short distance from the house, but my head whirled round, and my steps were like those of a drunken man. I fell at the last state of utter exhaustion. A film covered my eyes, and my skin was parched with the heat of a fever. In this state I was carried back to a place on a bed, hardly conscious of what happened. My eyes wandered round the room, as if to seek something that I had lost. After an interval, I arose, and as if by instinct crawled into the room where the corpse of my beloved lay. In Bregan's film, the monster rips her heart out, and then Victor brings her back to life. It's wild. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I could see him doing that. Monster's not very good at taking shots, as far as yeah, he doesn't like guns. He's still very much weak to guns. Or at least, no, he's not weak to guns. It's just that, he has innards and can get injured like everyone else. It's just that he's a bit more resistant to it, is all. There were women weeping around. I hung over it as I joined my sad tears with them. All this time no distinct idea presented itself to my mind, but my thoughts rambled to various subjects, reflecting confusedly on my misfortunes and their cause. I was bewildered in the cloud of wonder and horror. The death of William, the execution of Justine, the murder of Clerval, and lastly of my wife. Even at that moment, I knew not that my only remaining friends were safe from the malignity of the fiend. My father, even now, might be writhing under his grasp, and Ernest might be dead at his feet. The idea made me shudder, and I recalled me to action. I started up and resolved to return to Geneva with all possible speed. There were no horses to be procured, and I must return by the lake. But the wind was unfavourable, and the rain fell in torrents. However, it was hardly morning, and I might reasonably hope to arrive by night. I hired men to row, and took an oar myself, for I had always experienced relief from mental torment in bodily exercise. But the overflowing misery I now felt, and the excess of agitation that I endured, rendered me incapable of any excitation. I threw down the oar, and leaning my head upon my hands, gave way to every gloomy idea that arose. If I looked up, I saw scenes which were familiar to me in my happier time, and which I had contemplated but the day before in the company of her, who was now but a shadow and a recollection. Tears streamed from my eyes, the rain had ceased for a moment, and I saw the fish play in the waters as they had done a few hours before, but they had then been observed by Elizabeth. Nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change. The sun might shine or the clouds might lower, but nothing could appear to me as it had done the day before. A fiend had snatched from me every hope of the future happiness. No creature had ever been so miserable as I was. So frightful an event is single in the history of man. But why should I dwell upon the incidents that followed this last overwhelming event? Mine has been a tale of horrors. I have reached their acme, and what I must now relate can be but tedious to you. Know that one by one my friends were snatched away. I was left desolate. My own strength is exhausted, and I must tell in a few words what remains of my hideous narration. I arrived at Geneva. My father and Ernest yet lived, but the former sunk under the tidings I bore. I see him now, excellent and venerable old man. His eyes wandered in vacancy, for they had lost their charm and their delight. His Elizabeth is more than daughter, whom he doted on with all affection which a man feels, who in the decline of life, having few affections, clings more earnestly to those that remain. Cursed to be the fiend that brought misery on his grey hairs, and doomed him to waste and wretchedness. He could not live under the horrors that accumulated around him. The springs of existence suddenly gave way, and he was unable to rise from his bed. In a few days, he died in my arms. What then became of me? I know not. I lost sensation, and the chains and darkness were the only objects that pressed upon me. Sometimes, indeed, I dreamt that I wandered in flowery meadows and pleasant vales with the friends of my youth, but I awoke and found myself in a dungeon. Melancholy followed, but by degrees I gained a clearer conception of my miseries and situation, and was then released from my prison, for they had called me mad, and during many months, as I understood, the solitary cell had been my habitation. Liberty, however, had been a useless gift to me. Had I not, as I awakened to reason, at the same time awakened to revenge? As the memory of past misfortunes pressed upon me, I began to reflect on their cause. The monster whom I had created, the miserable demon whom I had sent abroad into the world for my destruction. I was possessed by a maddening rage when I thought of him, and desired and ardently prayed that I might have him within my grasp to wreak a great and single revenge upon his cursed head. Nor did my hate long confine itself to useless wishes. I began to reflect on the best means of securing him, and for this purpose, about a month after my release, I repaired to a criminal judge in the town and told him that I had an accusation to make, that I knew the destroyer of my family, and that I required him to exert his whole authority for the apprehension of the murderer. The magistrate listened to me with attention and kindness. "Be assured, sir," said he, "no pains or excitations on my part shall be spared to discover the villain." "Thank you," replied I. "Listen, therefore, to the disposition I have to make. It is indeed a tale so strange that I should fear you would not credit it were there not something in the truth which, however wonderful, forces conviction. The story is too connected to be mistaken for a dream, and I have no motive for falsehood. How much of the book is left? 15%. My manner, as I thus addressed him, was impressive but calm. I had formed in my own heart the resolution to pursue my destroyer to death, and this purpose quieted my agony, and for an interval reconciled me to life. I now related my history briefly but with firmness and precision, marking the dates with accuracy and never deviating to invective or exclamation. Are we going to finish the stream? I don't think so. It feels like we should. It feels like it's coming to its climax, but I don't think we will. We haven't gotten through more than 10% on a stream, so I highly doubt it, unfortunately. There's probably going to be one more of these before Christmas. The magistrate... The next stream will be the last for this one, yeah. So it means I need to get the other book queued up ASAP. The magistrate appeared at first perfectly incredulous, but as I continued, he became more attentive and interesting. I saw sometimes shudder with horror, and others a lively surprise, unmingled with disbelief, as painted on his countenance. Next stream will be 30 minutes. No, I mean, if we finish early, then I'll just do something else for the rest of the stream. Which book would it be? I don't know just yet. I've got a few indie books that I've been contacted about, so I'll probably double check with them. If not, I don't know. I'll have to pick another classic if no one gets back to me, because they haven't been bloody getting back to me. When I concluded the narration, I said, "This is the being whom I accuse, for whose seizure and punishment I call upon you to exert your whole power. It is your duty as a magistrate, and I believe and hope that your feelings as a man will not revolt from the execution of those functions on this occasion." This address caused a considerable change in the physiognomy of my auditor. He had heard my story with that half kind of belief that is given to a tale of spirits and supernatural events. But when he was called upon to act officially in consequence, the whole tide of his incredulity returned. He, however, answered mildly, "I would willingly afford you every aid in your pursuit, but the creature of whom you speak appears to have powers which would put all my exertions to defiance. Who can follow an animal which can traverse the sea of ice and inhabit caves and dens where no man would venture to intrude? Besides, some months have elapsed since the commission of his crimes, and no one can conjecture to what place he has wandered, or what region he may now inhabit." He just got Wuthering Heights, so that would be fun. You could do a read along. Wuthering Heights, is that a classic that's potentially open source? Because obviously I've got to think about copyrights and things, unfortunately. I do not doubt that he hovers near the spot which I inhabit. And if he has indeed taken refuge in the Alps, he may be hunted like the chamos and destroyed as a beast of prey. But I perceive your thoughts do not credit my narrative, and do not intend to pursue my enemy with the punishment which he deserves. As I spoke, rage sparkled into my eyes. The magistrate was intimidated. You are mistaken, said he. I will exert myself, and if it is in my power to seize the monster, I be assured that he shall suffer the punishment proportionate to his crimes. But I fear, from what you have yourself described to be his properties, that this will prove impracticable. And thus, while every proper measure is pursued, you should make up your minds to disappointment. How those authors have been waiting on you. I know they have to wait a long time. I know. They contact me and I'm like, cool, I'll pick up your book and then I'll come back to you. I tried to explain to them that, it all depends on my streaming and stuff like that. I might have to do, currently I'm doing it for completely free for, authors and things, but I might start, encouraging authors to at least buy me a Kofi when I read their book, especially now I've got, now I'm getting close to 1k subs. Before, when I started offering it, I didn't have that many, but now I have enough to sort of justify it a little bit, I think. But anyway... That cannot be! But all that I can say will be of little avail. My revenge is of no moment to you, yet, while I allow it to be a vice, I confess that it is the devouring and only passion of my soul. My rage is unspeakable when I reflect that the murderer whom I had turned loose upon society still exists. You refuse my just demand? I have but one resource. I devote myself either in my life or death to his destruction. I trembled with excessive agitation. As I said this, there was a frenzy in my manner, and something, I doubt not, of that haughty fierceness which the martyrs of old are said to have possessed. But to a Genevan magistrate, whose mind was occupied by far other ideas than those of devotion and heroism, this elevation of mind had much the appearance of madness. He endeavoured to soothe me as a nurse does a child, and reverted to my tales in the effects of delirium. "Man," I cried, "how ignorant art thou in thy pride of wisdom! Cease! You know what it is you say!" I broke from the house, angry and disturbed, and retired to meditate on some other mode of action. Oh, the chapters are getting a bit shorter now. That's nice. It's only 30 years older than Frankenstein, so maybe, probably yes. As long as it's like 70 years old, I think is the line for it to be open domain. Won't seize Victor for making such witchcraft with corpses. They should. He should be punished for this. That's defilement of corpses. He should be punished for it too. Just imagine if they just resort to giving you money just so you wouldn't read a fan fiction from your fans. That would be interesting, I'm not gonna lie. Don't go to join the chat. Try Lair of the Witch of the White Worm, the book Bram Stoker wrote when he was dying of syphilis. God damn. So that's probably heavy, I can imagine. Chapter 24. My present situation was one in which all voluntary thought was swallowed up and lost. I was hurried away by fury. Revenge alone endowed me with strength and composure. It moulded my feelings and allowed me to be calculating and calm at periods when otherwise delirium or death would have been my portion. My first resolution was to quit Geneva forever. My country, which, when I was happy and beloved, was dear to me, now, in my adversary, became hateful. I provided myself with a sum of money, together with a few jewels which had belonged to my mother, and departed. And now my wanderings began, which are to cease but with life. I have traversed a vast portion of the earth, and have endured all hardships which travellers in deserts and barbarous countries are wont to meet. How I have lived I hardly know. Many times have I stretched my failing limbs upon the sandy plain, and prayed for death, but revenge kept me alive. I dared not die and leave my adversary in being. When I quitted Geneva, my first labour was to gain some clue by which I might trace the steps of my fiendish enemy. But my plan was unsettled, and I wandered many hours round the confines of the town, uncertain what path I should pursue. As night approached, I found myself at the entrance of the cemetery, where William, Elizabeth, and my father reposed. I entered it and approached the tomb which marked their graves. Everything was silent, except the leaves of the trees, which were gently agitated by the wind. The night was nearly dark, and the scene would have been solemn and affecting, even to the uninterested observer. The spirits of the departed seemed to flit around and cast a shadow which was felt but not seen around the head of the monster. If they give you money to read their books over my fan fictions or actual attempts at stories, I would just give you bidding wars for my screen time. I don't think they would give me money specifically to, be over your fan fictions, because as we've said, your fan fictions aren't getting read live anyway, so that's okay. Will he create another monster to kill his first monster? That would be a very human thing to do, wouldn't it? We're very good at doing things like that. Or at least that's what we're very good at doing in Mass Effect, if I remember correctly. We get this to kill this, to kill this, to kill this, and then we kill this. A deep grief which this scene had first excited quickly gave way to rage and despair. They were dead, and I lived. Their murderer also lived, and to destroy him I must drag out my weary existence. I knelt on the grass and kissed the earth with quivering lips, exclaimed, "By the sacred earth on which I kneel, by the shades that wander near me, by the deep and eternal grief that I feel, I swear, and by thee, O night, and the spirits that preside over thee, to pursue that demon who caused this misery until he or I shall perish in mortal conflict. For this purpose I will preserve my life, to execute this dear revenge. Will I again behold the sun and tread the green herbage of life, which otherwise should vanish from my eyes forever. And I call upon you, spirits of the dead, and on you, wandering ministers of revenge, to aid and conduct me in my work. Let the cursed and hellish monster drink deep of agony, and let him feel the despair that torments me." I had begun my adjuration with some solemnity, and an away, which almost assured me that the shades of my murderous friends heard and approved of my devotion, but the furies possessed me as I concluded, and rage choked my utterance. I also asked if I tried being a serious author, making an original story. Are you just going to pre-record it, or am I going to need to come up with a pen name and figure out what they're doing to get your attention? I mean, if you're going to publish a book, then you would be an indie author, and I would happily read it. It just depends how serious the story is. Depends. I'd also need a cover for the thumbnail. I was answered through the stillness of night by a loud and fiendish laugh. It rang through my ears long and heavy. The mountains re-echoed it, and I felt as if all hell surrounded me with mockery and laughter. Surely in that moment I should have been possessed by frenzy and have destroyed my miserable existence, but that my vow was heard and that I was reserved for revenge. I mean, the story can be funny. The plot itself can be funny. It's how serious you take the story. That's the thing. Are you going for I am be a writer today? Or are you going for this is fun hobby? The laughter died away when a well-known and abhorred voice, apparently close to my ear, addressed me in an audible whisper. I am satisfied, miserable wretch. You have determined to live, and I am satisfied. I darted towards the spot from which the sound proceeded, but the devil eluded my grasp. Suddenly the broad disk of the moon arose, and shone full upon his ghastly, distorted shape as he fled with more than mortal speed. I pursued him, and for many months this has been my task. Guided by a slight clue, I followed the windings of the Rhone, and vainly, the blue Mediterranean appeared, and by the strange chance I saw the fiend enter by night and hide himself in a vessel bound for the Black Sea. I took my passage in the same ship, but he escaped. I know not how. I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make a serious attempt at a story and give it to Brownie and see if I'm qualified as an author. There's no such thing as being qualified as an author, especially with self-publishing and stuff nowadays. But Storytime Sunday the point of it was to read indies and things like that and try bring a little spotlight to people. I know obviously I'm reading a classic right now, but it's because I didn't have any indies lined up. So I want to give spotlights to people who need them. Also, I want to read more books. So that's why Storytime Sunday is the way it is. I'm not like dismissing anyone, but there's a lot of indie authors out there that could probably do with the extra sort of shout out. So that's why I want to do it. Amidst the wilds of Tartary and Russia, although he still evaded me, I have ever followed in his track. Sometimes the peasants, scared by his horrid apparition, informed me of his path. Sometimes he himself, who feared that I lost all trace of him, that I should despair and die, left some mark to guide me. The snows descend upon my head, and I saw the print of his huge step on the white plain. To you first entering on life, to whom care is new and agony unknown, how can you understand what I have felt and still feel? How do I get started with the indie author thing? You write a book. You edit the book. You get a cover. You publish it. Done. It is highly advised to get professional editing and cover design. I have not, honestly, because it's very expensive. It's probably why there's so many mistakes in my books, I'll be honest. But hey ho. Cold, want, and fatigue were the least pains which I was destined to endure. I was cursed by some devil, and carried about with me my internal hell. Yet still a spirit of good followed, and directed my steps, and when I most murmured, would suddenly extricate me from seemingly insurmountable difficulties. Is it all digital, or do I need to use my notebook? I mean, I do it all digitally. I write just Word, Microsoft Word. There are some other fancier programs. I think Scrivener is one that's a bit fancier and stuff like that. Writing is hard. Writing is very hard. Especially writing like a whole ass book. Yeah, time is passing really fast again. We're on the Victor Express as he travels the land in search of revenge. Sometimes when nature, overcame by hunger, sank under the exertion, was repassed and prepared for me in the desert that restored and inspired me. The fare was, indeed, coarse, such as the peasants of the country ate, but I will not doubt that it was set there by the spirits that I had invoked to aid me. Often, when all was dry and the heavens cloudless, I was parched by thirst. A slight cloud would bedim the sky, shed a few drops that revive me and vanish. Hello, you're new here. Welcome, Armando. Frankenstein is an awesome book. Have you seen VTubers in the books? Yeah, I like books. And this has been really fun to read. I haven't actually read Frankenstein before. But I always wanted to, because obviously it's the grandmama of all sci-fi books, and I really wanted to know where it came from. Microsoft Word, really? How did you get Moon Girl printed and accepted? So for Kindle, there's this wonderful program called Kindle Create, which Amazon created, where you can literally just put stuff through there. And then there are a couple programs and things that help with formatting, and the formatting between Word and getting it accepted and published is a different thing. It's not that hard to do between Word and everything else, but you can just write it in Word. It's fine. There's no special thing to publish books in. Are you all for a candy, guys? Well, thank you for coming. I highly appreciate it. Kindle Create, you really don't need it yet. You need to write your book before you even think about that. Just focus on getting a story and a book done. Then you can think about the rest of it. You don't need to think about the rest just yet. No point. Oh, except for promotion, because, self-promotion is a thing you have to do, which is sucky, and I hate it. Da, da, da. Oh, no, it's not that hard to get accepted. Also, self-publishing means that you don't have a publisher, which means you just published it yourself. There's no one to really accept. You just have to go by the guidelines and format it correctly, and then you're done, basically. I followed when I could the courses of the rivers, but the demon generally avoided these, as it was here that the population of the country chiefly collected. In other places human beings were seldom seen, and I generally subsided on the wild animals that crossed my path. I had money with me and gained the friendship of the villagers by distributing it, or I brought with me some food that I had killed, which, after taking a small part, I always presented to those who had provided me with fire and utensils for cooking. Why promote yourself when you can promote me? Well, we gotta work together on that. Why let you promote me when we can both promote me? Yeah! It is surprisingly easy, yes. Getting them actually on the shelves in Walmart is a whole nother thing. Getting it on the website for Walmart, surprisingly easy. You just have to know which printer you're going with. My life as it passed thus was indeed hateful to me, and it was during sleep alone that I could taste joy. Oh, blessed sleep! Often when most miserable I sank to repose, and my dreams lulled me even to rapture. The spirits that guarded me had provided these moments, or rather hours of happiness, that I might retain strength to fulfill my pilgrimage. Deprived of this respite, I should have sunk under my hardships. Why is it hard to get the stuff on the shelves in Walmart? Because I would need to have my book be popular enough and wanted enough that Walmart would feel the need to actually stock my work. Currently, Walmart does not stock my work. You would order it via the Walmart website. They would send a message to the printer. They would print one copy and send off that copy. That's how it works right now. Walmart itself doesn't technically stock my book. It's just that they can get it delivered, basically. During the day I was sustained and inspired by the hope of night, for in sleep I saw my friends, my wife, and my beloved country. Again I saw the benevolent countenance of my father, heard the silver tones of my Elizabeth's voice, and beheld Clerval enjoying health and youth. Often, when wearied by a toilsome march, I persuaded myself that I was dreaming until night should come, and that I should enjoy reality in the arms of my dearest friends. What agonizing fondness did I feel for them! How did I cling to their dear forms, as sometimes they haunted even my waking hours, and persuade myself that they still lived. At such moments, the vengeance that burned within me died in my heart. I pursued my path towards the destruction of the demon, more as a task enjoined by heaven, as a mechanical impulse of some power of which I was unconscious, than as the ardent desire of my soul. You could probably mass buy Moon Girl, but you would have to buy a lot of Moon Girl for it to be, properly stocked in Walmart. Just kidding, they might go out of stock with me doing that. They wouldn't. They get printed as soon as you order them. It's called print on demand, baby! You demand hundreds of Moon Girls, they will print you hundreds of Moon Girls fresh off the printer. What his feelings were, whom I pursued, I cannot know. Sometimes, indeed, he left marks in writing on the barks of trees, or cut in stone that guided me and instigated my fury. My reign is not over yet. These words were legible in one of these inscriptions. You live, and my power is complete. Follow me. I seek the everlasting ices of the north, where you will feel the misery of cold and frost, to which I am impassive. You will find near this place, if you follow not too tardily, a dead hare. Eat and be refreshed. Come on, my enemy. We have yet to wrestle for our lives, but many hard and miserable hours must you endure until that period shall arrive. Damn! So I need to calculate how much 1 million Moon God books cost so I can get it on the shelves. You also might need to make alternative accounts, because if it's just one person, I don't know if it'll count. I don't know how it works for Walmart picking their stock for the shelves. So I can't guarantee anything here. I'm just assuming. Scoffing devil. The monster is literally torturing him. He is literally dragging him through deserts and uninhabited terrain and third world countries just to fuck with him at this point. And honestly, this level of petty queen deserves a crown. Scoffing devil, again I vow vengeance. Again do I devote thee, miserable fiend, to torture and death. Never will I give up my search until he or I perish. And then, with what ecstasy I shall join my Elizabeth and my departed friends, who even now prepare for me the reward of my tedious toil and horrible pilgrimage. Oh yeah, I probably would become a millionaire if you did that. That's true. As I still pursued my journey to the northward, the snows thickened and the cold increased in a degree almost too severe to support. The peasants were shut up in their hovels, and only a few of the most hardy ventured forth to seize the animals whom starvation had forced them from their hiding places to seek for prey. The rivers were covered in ice, and no fish could be procured, and thus I was cut off from my chief article of maintenance. The triumph of my enemy increased with the difficulty of my labours, and one inscription that he left was these words: "Prepare! Your toils only begin. Wrap yourself in furs and provide food, for we shall soon enter upon a journey where your sufferings will satisfy my everlasting hatred." My courage and perseverance were invigorated by these scoffing words. I resolved not to fail in my purpose, and calling on heaven to support me, I continued with unabated fervour to traverse immense deserts until the ocean appeared at a distance and formed the utmost boundary of the horizon. Oh, how unlike it was to the blue seasons of the south. Covered with ice, it was only to be distinguished from land by its superior wildness and ruggedness. The Greeks wept for joy when they beheld the Mediterranean from the hills of Asia, and hailed with rapture the boundary of their toils. I did not weep, but I knelt down with a full heart, thanked my guiding spirit for conducting me in safety to the place where I hoped, notwithstanding my adversary's jibe, to meet and grapple with him. I don't think heaven is supporting him. I think he's just delusional at this point. Absolutely delusional. Some weeks before this period, I had procured a sledge and dogs, and thus traversed the snows with inconceivable speed. I know not whether the fiend possessed the same advantages, but I found that, as before, I had daily lost ground in pursuit. I now gained on him, so much so that when I first saw the ocean, he was but 1 day's journey in advance, and I hoped to intercept him before he should reach the beach. With new courage, therefore, I pressed on, and in 2 days arrived at the wretched hamlet on the sea-shore. I inquired of the inhabitants concerning the fiend, and gained accurate information. A gigantic monster, they said, had arrived the night before, armed with a gun and many pistols, putting to flight the inhabitants of the solitary cottage through fear of his terrific appearance. He had carried off their shore of winter food, and placed it on a sledge to draw, which had seized on a numerous drove of trained dogs. He had harnessed them the same night, to the joy of the horror-struck villagers, had pursued his journey across the sea in a direction that led to no land, and they conjectured that he must speedily be destroyed by the breaking of the ice or frozen by the eternal frosts. Yep, he finally has guns! It's official, he's got guns! It is almost time to end the stream. Let me just check how long I've got on the chapter. Oh, a metric crap ton. Oh, lordy. I might have to leave it there for today then, unfortunately. If only because I do not have time to get to the rest of the chapter. But thank you, everyone, for coming. I need to take a better drink. Yeah, we only have 12%, so we will definitely be finishing this book next week, which is very exciting. I can't wait. It'll be great. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you. How many percents? 12% left. 12%. We are at 88%. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you to anyone who lurked, and thank you to anyone who watches the VOD. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you could put a like on this video and subscribe to my channel. We are only 5 subscribers off my first 1K! And all I want for Christmas is 1K subs. So if you could help me get to that goal, that would be absolutely lovely. I would highly appreciate it. It would be great. Thank you, thank you. If you don't, that's fine too. But I would like it. It would make me happy. But other than that, I will be back tomorrow with some Minecraft with the assistants. And I should have a schedule up soon, but I am actually off tomorrow, so I'll actually put it up tomorrow. Oh, it's the first Monday I've had off for a little while now. Well, no, I had last Monday off. I don't know. What is time? What are schedules? What are shifts? If you'd like to support me in a money way, which would be lovely, I have a Kofi. I have a I have things. Go give Bryony money. She has a Patreon, Kofi, notebooks, merch. She ghostwrites. She sells short stories. She's reading Sonic 06 tomorrow. I wish I could read Sonic 06. I would read Sonic 06 if there was a Sonic 06 book. I would 100% read that. But yeah, you basically covered everything there, Void. There's merch on the Etsy. There is a Patreon where there will be a Patreon exclusive stream next week on Thursday. And there is the Kofi, which the Kofi and the Patreon both also have shops in it for extra audio shorts of short stories, which you can enjoy. And that's it. I think that's all I've got to tell you about. And then I'll be back. I forgot I liked 06. I do like 06 because I have terrible taste in games. But anyway. Yes, that is it. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. This has been Bryony Rose Smith, live from the Forbidden Library. See you tomorrow. Bye.